Oke, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Kita lanjut lagi, guys, tentang pembahasan buku John Hopkins Textbook of Cardiothoracic Surgery. Kemarin kita sudah di bab 3 ya, sekarang bab 3. Ya, sekarang bab selanjutnya bab 4. Ya, bab 4. Kemarin kita di sini terakhir di di bab 4 ya. Congenital pulmonary disorder. Kita baca dulu key konsepnya. Epidemiology. Congenital pulmonary anomalies include a multitude clinical entities linked by a common development lineage. The prevalence is dependent upon the particular malformation. These anomalies represent different variation of shared embryologic pathway and therefore possess clinical similarities and occasionally present simultaneously. Pathophysiology. Physiologically, the impact of this lesion, which can be mild or detrimental, depends on largely on two factors: pulmonary hypoplasia and fatal hydrops. The mass effect of fatal intrathoracic lesion can impair lung development and decrease cardiac output secondary to mediastinal shift, causing fatal demise or severe compromise. Lesions that repress function lung parenchyma can also cause pulmonary insufficiency. And clinical features: many congenital pulmonary anomalies present postnatally with frequent pulmonary infection, respiratory distress, hemoptysis, although others are discovered incidentally on plain chest radiography. Diagnosis of congenital pulmonary malformation are now typically detected with prenatal surveillance imaging. Diagnostic. Prenatal ultrasound is the primary diagnostic modality whereby congenital pulmonary anomalies are identified in utero and the degree of hydrops is assessed. Postnatally, computed tomography or CT scan or magnetic resonance imaging can be used to differentiate lesion based on anatomic characteristic. But since surgical resection is the treatment for most mass lesion, additional imaging is valued to ensure the prenatal lesion has not regressed. Then the treatment. Resection often curative for local lesion, but outcome is ultimately dependent on residual pulmonary function and associated medical condition. Fetal intervention is being offered as an alternative for some congenital pulmonary anomalies, although outcomes have been mixed. Then outcome dependent on the particular disease process. Generally, excellent survival rates are not with timely treatment of bronchogenic cyst, pulmonary sequestration, and congenital lobar emphysema. A large percentage of congenital pulmonary adenomatoid malformation postnatally do regress. The prognosis of other entities are adversely affected by the presence of fatal hydrops prenatally or the association of recurrent infection or malignant risk in some of the anomalies. Next, introduction. Okay. Congenital lung malformation represent a diverse spectrum of developmental defects. A high index of suspicion for this relatively rare malformation is essential in evaluating thoracic lesion in a child. The clinical presentation is variable, presenting as respiratory distress in a newborn or remaining asymptomatic until adolescent or even adulthood. The revolution prenatal imaging with the ubiquity of antenatal ultrasound has enabled earlier and more frequent detection of pulmonary anomalies. The most commonly identified prenatal pulmonary anomaly remains the cystic lung lesion with an estimated incidence of 1 in 830 to 3005 births. Prenatal characteristics such as the presence of the size of cyst, lung echogenicity, anatomic location, vascular supply, and associated pathophysiology, including hydrops and mediastinal shift, can characterize a lung lesion. See in table 4.1. Okay. Since congenital lung lesion vary in behavior from regression to causing fatal demise, the prognosis of prenatally detection lesion is not always evident. Advances in prenatal imaging have been quintessential in defining the criteria of early therapeutic intervention in a lesion adversely affecting fetal development and as opposed to expectant management with postnatal resection of symptomatic cases. Oke, kita lanjut dulu ke table 41 ya. Characteristic of congenital pulmonary malformation. Pertama ada type bronchogenic cyst, itu typical presentationnya ada di mediastinal location dan biasanya asimptomatik. Anomalinya abnormal bronchial budding. Oke. Next, peripheral pulmonary cyst. Itu biasanya di respiratory distress in infants. Anomalinya pada abnormal alveolar development. Di abnormal alveolar development, kalau tadi kan di bronchial. Congenital lobar emphysema, acute respiratory distress in neonate, LUL, RML. Left upper lobe and right middle lobe ya. Lebih banyak di left upper lobe dibanding right middle. Hip abnormalinya hyperinflation associated with cartilage deficiency. Association 20% of cardiac anomalies. Pulmonary sequestration, extralobar and intralobar. Lebih banyak pada intralobar ya, 75%. Typical presentationnya antenatal or incidental detected. Neonate, dyspnea or difficult feeding, later recurrent pneumonias. Anomalinya pada separate lobe and pleura intraparenchymal. Asosiasinya pada anomalous blood supply from aorta, potential GI tract communication. Dan si PAM ya. Congenital pulmonary malformation. Yang grade 0, acinar dysplasia ya. Fatal at birth. Cyst size atau epithelium size 0,5 cm tracheal epithelium. Kalau type 1, macrocytic, often asymptomatic postnatal terdiagnosanya. Size-nya 10 cm dan pada bronchial epithelium. Is of malignancy. Kalau type 2, small cyst, symptomatic in neonatus. Size-nya 2,5 cm dan tetap di bronchial epithelium. Size type 3, microcytic, solid and symptomatic in neonate. Size-nya 1,5 cm bronchial epithelium. Type 4, newborn to 6 years, tension pneumothorax, small cyst on the periphery lobes. Presentation ya, jenisnya. Size of cyst 7 cm, distal acinar epithelium, risk of malignancy. Lanjut. A brief highly of normal lung development is useful in conceptualizing the development of bronchopulmonary foregut malformation. The primitive foregut is the knowledge of both pulmonary and gastrointestinal system, which explain the persistent connection in some anomalies. At 3 weeks, the embryonic stage of gestation, lung development is initiated by the divergence of the tracheal diverticulum from the primitive foregut. Jadi foregut sama tracheal itu ya dulu nyatu. Maturation of the conducting airways from the trachea to the terminal bronchioles is complete by the end of pseudoglandular stage, 16th week. The development of the highly differentiated respiratory unit for gas exchange occurs in the remaining 24 weeks in utero during canalicular and terminal sac stage wherein the distal respiratory bronchioles and alveoli are added to the pulmonary matrix. In the final 4 weeks in utero, until 8 years of age, lung surface area undergoes the exponential increase in alveolar growth. Bronchogenic cyst. Bronchogenic cysts arise from abnormal budding of the tracheobronchial tree as through foregut anomalies to form a non-functional cyst mass. 2/3 of these cysts separate in early in developmental, and thus are centrally located in the mediastinum, firmly adherent to the carina. These solitary cysts are well encapsulated spherical lesion lined with bronchial epithelium, and mucous gland. They remain asymptomatic until superimposing infection of the fluid-filled cyst occurs. Oke, asymptomatic ya. Less frequently, they can be seen in a newborn due to size of large lesion compressing surrounding abnormal lung. Bronchogenic cyst should be excised to avoid further complication of infection, air trapping, and hemoptysis. Otherwise, they present as the most common benign medicinal case in adulthood. Those that appear later in developmental and peripheral cysts are less common and are located in the periphery of lower lobes. Since they occur during rapid bronchial diffusion, a bronchial communication is more common. These are lined by dilated respiratory epithelium resulting from the pseudoglandular stage of development. Respiratory distress is the most common presenting cause, causing cyanosis, retraction, and grunting from rapid enlargement of the cyst. Air trapping occurs during expression due to the cyst lack of cartilaginous support. A bowel valve mechanism results in continued cyst expansion. The mass effect of the cyst causes further airway compression and distal pulmonary hyperinflation, worsening the respiratory compromise. The cyst can be misdiagnosed as a pneumothorax, especially in the setting of large coexistent bronchial communication. Similarly, a pneumothorax can be anticipated complication. Many of the asymptomatic lesions are discovered incidentally or when infectious complications intervene, with an airfield level or with recurrent pneumonia localized to the same lobe, pneumothorax, hemoptysis, and upper gastrointestinal bleeding. Okay. In congenital cyst lung lesion, 3% of asymptomatic lesion become symptomatic within 10 months, and up to 10% can become symptomatic in 3 years. Okay. Symptomatic becomes asymptomatic become symptomatic 10 months, dan 10%-nya become symptomatic in 3 years. Although a chest radiograph is diagnostic in over 3/4 of the cases, thin section computed tomography scanning with contrast is highly accurate in demonstrating this lesion, particularly in the setting of recurrent respiration exacerbation. Regardless of the location and presence of symptoms, surgical resection is mandated. Resection of even asymptomatic bronchogenic cyst is advised to precede symptoms to avoid complication. Medicinal lesion can be enucleated thoracoscopically via thoracotomy. Segmental or lobar resection is curative for peripheral lesion. Congenital pulmonary adenomatoid malformation atau CPAM. CPAM, formerly known as congenital cystic adenomatoid malformation (CCAM), are hamartomatous multicystic or mixed adenomatoid intrapulmonary mass arising from the overgrowth of terminal respiratory bronchioles with suppression of alveolar growth. They are usually localized to one lobe, although they can affect all lobes with equal frequency. This cystic structure may interconnect and communicate with the tracheobronchial tree. The current classification of CPAM is a modification of the initial Stoker classification of CCAMs based on cyst size to include the site of origin in the tracheobronchial tree, assuming each of type correlates to perturbation increasingly distal along the airway from trachea or bronchus to acinar alveolar sac. Type 0 malformation are the least common, are composed of multiple small, below 0.5 cm cysts and are uniformly fatal at birth. Okay. Type 1 malformation, the large cyst lesions are the most common, exceed 65% with typically dominant large cyst, up to 10 cm size. Type 2 malformation, the small cyst lesion occur 20 to 25% of the time, consists of multiple intermediate size, 0.5 to 2 cm. and are associated with the highest incidence of congenital anomalies, up to 20%, including renal dysgenesis, cardiac anomalies, congenital diaphragmatic hernia, CDH, and congenital heart disease. Type 3 malformation, the only known as the adenomatous lesion, represent 8% of CPMs and are solid appearing with tiny cysts below 1.5 centimeters, involving typically the entire lobe or lung. Poor prognosis indicators are often associated with the type 3 cyst, since these microcytic lesions tend to be capable of inducing fetal hydrops and pulmonary hydroplasia. Type 4 malformations are newly identified large cysts, about 7 centimeters in size, usually in one lobe, that consists of non-ciliated alveolar cells, or type 1 pneumocyte, in contrast to the ciliated cells in all other types. They often appear in a newborn to 6 years of age and have an associated with respiratory distress with pneumothorax or infection, as well as an associated with a risk of malignancy. Prenatally, the presentation of CPM is highly variable, with detection as early as 12 to 14 weeks for an attempt at more clinically relevant classification. The ultrasonographic appearance was used as the basis by Azix et al., using either a microcytic with case above 5 cm or previously type 1, or microcytic with case below 5 cm, or type 2 or type 3, depending the underlying histology. Macrocytic has a more favorable prognosis, and microcytic is more solid with an unfavorable prognosis and associated with more normal anomalies. What has more recently become evident is the recognition of hybrid lesion containing features of both CPAMs and bronchopulmonary sequestration, or BPS, indistinguishable until histologic review. Thus, differential diagnosis of a prenatal cyst can include a variety of lesions, such as CPM, bronchopulmonary sequestration, bronchogenic cyst, congenital lobar emphysema or CLE, esophageal duplication cyst, and CDH. Thus, further imaging with Doppler ultrasonography can detect the anomalous blood supply to the aorta found with sequestration. CT imaging can correlate with pathologic diagnosis of CPM with 100% of concordance. Magnetic resonance imaging, or MRI, or fetal MRI can assist in distinguishing whether an echogenic lung mass is a type 3 CPM or CDH, given the heterogeneity of the mass. The natural history of this lesion is unpredictable and can range from complete regression in 25% to 20% that are symptomatic prenatally, and then the 5% category of those with such rapid growth that mediastinal shift, caval obstruction, impaired cardiac filling, and subsequent non-immune hydrops and polyhydramnion result. CPAM-mutant hydrops have a generally favorable survival rate, whereas those 5% of CPAM that develop hydrops and anasarca are associated with a higher mortality rate, up to 100% without intervention. Large mass causing fetal hydrops is in a fetus below 32 weeks require in utero intervention to reverse the hydrops and potential fetal damage. In a macrocytic lesion, cyst aspiration and thoracoamniotic shunting have been used to alleviate mediastinal compression and hydrops. In a contrast, microcytic lesion, open fetal surgery has been surgical option to treat this lesion causing hydrops fetalis. CPM may grow progressively or regress by unclear mechanism. Maternal administration of betamethasone has been associated with a resolution of hydrops and increased survival in fetus with high-risk CPM compared with a historical control. This finding may be related to reduction in CPM growth and improved maturation, and need to be confirmed in a control trial as opposed to being compared to historical controls. In a figure of 4.1 ultrasound thoracic mass, and A. Transfer view. B. Coronal view. The CPM was demonstrated in 18 weeks, filling the thoracic cavity and resolved by 35 weeks of gestation. Of those who are symptomatic postnatally, 80% present with a respiratory distress compared to 20% who present more subtly with recurrent infection. Symptoms at birth are often due to mass effect causing mediastinal shift, pneumothorax or pulmonary hypoplasia. The size of lesion dictates the degree of respiratory distress. Large cysts can produce respiratory distress with such expansion of the cyst from air trapping that the contralateral lung is compressed. Microcytic lesions are also more frequently associated with distress in the newborn of period. A radiograph or CT can demonstrate the hyperexpanded lung with contralateral herniation and mediastinal shift. Those who are symptomatic with respiratory distress, recurrent infection, or pneumothorax require surgical resection, and the urgency of resection depends on the symptom. The majority of children, above 80%, remain asymptomatic postnatally, and the management remains controversial since the potential to become infected cause hemoptysis, pneumothorax, or hemothorax, or undergo malignant degeneration persists. At least 8% of congenital lung lesions spontaneously regress by 9 months, so the timing of surgery can wait for that period of potential resolution. In a large series, 3% of asymptomatic lesion can become symptomatic in that time frame. All lung lesion, even the severe lung lesion, prenatally need to be reconfirmed by postnatally imaging since CT scan can be identify detectable malformation even unvisualized on a plain chest X-ray. There is a rare association. There is a rare association of CPMs with malignancies, and 8.6% of malignant tumors have been shown to be associated with prior cystic malformation, such as bronchoalveolar carcinoma or BAC in older children and adults, pleuropulmonary blastoma (PPB) in young children, and embryonal rhabdomyosarcoma (PPB) are the most common malignancy associated with early childhood cyst or type 4, with 0.335 to 0.6565 ppb cases per 100 births. 1,000 births. Later in childhood, BAC occurs and can be associated with type 1 cyst and cystic synovial sarcoma appears de novo. Despite the confusion in the literature, PPB is not premalignant CPM, since cytogenic abnormalities or trisomy 8 are distinctly found in PPB, suggesting that the earliest presentation of low-grade cystic malignancy that can convert into sarcomatous disease over 12 to 72 months. Sorry. Malignancies have been reported later even after resection of CPM. So not only does elective resection for pathologic certainty require close surveillance post-resection, but also prophylactic resection of lung cyst will not prevent the later development of PPB. The definitive therapy is cervical resection and elective anatomy lobectomy, either via an open or thoracoscopic approach or FATS, remains the procedure of choice to avoid incomplete resection, persistent pneumothorax, and potentially recurrence. Multilobar involvement is best treated by a lobectomy with segmental resection for a parenchymal sparing procedure. Post-operatively, respiratory compromise may occurly worsen in neonates with coincident pulmonary hypoplasia and pulmonary hypertension, requiring extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. Next, pulmonary sequestration. Now, pulmonary sequestration is an ectopic mass of non-function lung tissue with anomalous systemic artery and without a bronchial connection to the tracheobronchial tree. sequestration are classified as either intralobar or extralobar. The majority are intralobar, as an anomalous intraparenchymal lesion without infesting pleura. Extralobar sequestration are separated from the normal lobe and contain with a distinct visceral pleura. The typical blood supply is from the systemic circulation arising from the descending or abdominal aorta, about 75%, or other thoracic vessels, 25%. This systemic blood supply is characteristically identified upon imaging. The systemic feeding arteries often are multiple branches of the aorta, and up to 15% are infradiaphragmatic. Multiple theories attempt to postulate the derivation of sequestration, assume to develop an accessory lung buds of an anomalous aortic branch that separates due to traction upon further growth. Most sequestration are in the left lower lobe. The most common type is Rokitansky lobe, which occurs in the left with a feeding vessel from the aorta. However, 15% of sequestration are located below the diaphragm as a retroperitoneal mass called abdominal accessory lobe. Sequestration often have a patent communication with the gastrointestinal tract, and extralobar types are associated with congenital anomalies, about 50 to 65%, such as congenital diaphragmatic hernia, bronchial atresia, colonic duplication, pulmonary hypoplasia, absence of pulmonary artery, vertebral anomalies, and esophageal communication. Because of the associated diaphragmatic effect, radioisotope scanning of right lower lobe lesion can distinguish a herniated liver from right lower lobe sequestration. Typically, the extralobar sequestration is asymptomatic and found incidentally, prenatally, or due to associated congenital anomalies. Despite no connection to the tracheobronchial tree, the sequestration may become infected by hematogenous spread, causing respiratory distress from recurrent pneumonia. Symptoms may also reflect the secondary cardiac manifestation from the coincident large venous shunt to the systemic circulation. Typically, venous drainage is the systemic circulation, or inferior vena cava, azygous vein, or portal vein, creating a left-right shunt. Thus, large shunts are at risk for potentially creating high-output cardiac failure. The scimitar syndrome is due to anomalous venous return to the vena cava, creating a left-to-right shunt, and the venous drainage appears to a sickle-shaped shadow in the right lower lobe. This is an algorithm for congenital lung lesion. Prenatally diagnosed lesion or detected at birth. Symptomatic after delivery, if yes, resection. If no, chest X-ray, or um, boleh pulang, or if asymptomatic. Is lesion detectable? Chest X-ray is in 1 month, or thoracic CT with contrast in 3 to 6 months. If yes, if persistent lesion, resection when symptomatic or by 10 to 12 months of age. If no, asymptomatic, or resolution of lesion resolution, and can be dipulangkan. Intralobar lesion remain asymptomatic until recurrent infection or hemoptysis occurs. A kystic or atelectasis must be present on plain radiograph, but definitive diagnosis require documenting systemic arterial supply by Doppler, ultrasonography, or nuclear magnetic resonance angiography. Both techniques are more frequently used than angiography, the prior gold standard. All sequestration should be excised to avoid future complications with infection and fatal hemoptysis. Intralobar lesion may require lobectomy, and extrapulmonary lesion require an excision that can be accomplished by standard thoracotomy or more recently by thoracoscopic resection. Last, congenital lobar emphysema (CLE) is a rare cause of respiratory distress in the newborn, and is characterized by overexpansion of a pulmonary lobe and alveolar overdistension. A variant bronchomalacia can cause CLE with a focal cartilaginous deficiency of the tracheobronchial tree, resulting in regional airway collapse with aspiration and then air trapping, leading to emphysematous changes. Over one half are diagnosed by 1 month of age, and presentation after 6 months is unusual. A chest radiograph is sufficient to diagnose a large emphysematous lobe with atelectasis in the ipsilateral lobe. The upper lobes are most commonly involved with the following incidents: left upper lobe, the most involved, left upper lobe 42%, right middle lobe 35%, right upper lobe 21%, and bilaterally 20%. The etiology is not clear in the majority of cases. However, both bronchial cartilaginous dysplasia and polyalveolar lobes are the pathologies present in the quarter of cases each. Extensive compression can occur from the intrathoracic mass, such as vascular or cardiac anomaly, teratoma vascularing, or patent ductus arteriosus, even in a stage of respiratory distress syndrome in a neonate with chronic pulmonary interstitial emphysema can evolve to CLE, congenital lobar emphysema. Alveolar cells make up the emphysematous tissue can be both CLE and CPAM type 4 that are pathologically similar. 20% of associated malformation are cardiac anomalies, PDA, ventricular septal defect, or VSD, and tetralogy of Fallot. Moderate distress present initially until the lobe gradually enlarges, causing cyanosis by continued compression of the uninvolved lung due to continued expansion. Severe life-threatening distress is rare but may require immediate surgical intervention or thoracotomy to allow the overinflated lobe to decompress upon herniation and to prevent intrathoracic compression by a lobectomy. Bronchoscopy and positive pressure ventilation can exacerbate the underlying pathophysiology of CLE, creating a life-threatening situation, which can be only relieved by rapid tracheotomy or to decompress the hyperventilated lobe. Many lesions can resolve spontaneously by surgical intervention. Lobectomy is indicated in those lesions that are symptomatic from compression of the normal lung and mediastinum. These varied congenital lung malformations are relatively unusual individually. Early diagnosis require a high index of suspicion and familiarity with their presentation since they are difficult to detect, whereas early diagnosis is amenable to an uncomplicated cervical resection. A delay in diagnosis can be associated with substantially morbidity.